Everything works.
Oh, yeah.
It's a super cheap friend.
All right, folks, we're going to start this work session. We have 2 items on this lengthy agenda for this evening. So hold tight, this is going to be a short one. But however, we do have, what I did ask is that Michael come and present an extensive report regarding the infrastructure work that's happening. Some capital project work that needs to be addressed that's going to be happening or coming up soon. As well as we do have a presentation from Robert Murphy from Barton and Judas, who's our grant writing agency. Their contract is coming up mid-May. So I felt it appropriate for him to come and present what has been happening in the grant writing world for the city of Plattsburgh, what we've accomplished in the last couple of years. And that item will come back to the council for approval for the next meeting. We'll start with Bob. Get Bob out of the way because I know he's got some traveling to do.
Thank you, Mayor. So, again, I'm Bob Murphy with Barton and Judas. I'm a community planner and grant writer for those who may not be familiar with me. But as the Mayor said, I wanted to provide some context into our grant writing and administrative activities over the last almost 3 years, and sort of the results we've produced in light of our contract coming up and the desire to keep that going. So, go to the next slide, please. So we were retained through a competitive process back in April and May of 2021 to help the city, both from a grant writing perspective, pursuing new funding sources, as well as administration, administrating the kind of variety of grants already obtained. And it was a competitive process. We had a contract that was for $56,000 each year with the option for the city to renew each year, and those were renewed for 2022 and 2023. Go to the next slide, Beth. So just wanted to show a brief look by the numbers, and it highlights the consolidated funding application, which for those of you who might not be familiar, that is one of the primary sources that the state distributes money. There are over 27 programs within it, representing most state agencies except for DOT. So it's a lot of the state funding options that aren't transportation. And over the last 3 years, we've submitted 17 applications and been funded for 8 successfully, totaling over $4.5 million in funding. So especially this last year, really successful. We've built up that success over the last couple of years, and I'll go through that in the next couple of slides. And again, the consolidated funding application is just one avenue. We've been doing other things, and I'll go through that as well here. So as I mentioned, we were retained in May of 2021. Gave us a few months to put together some applications, but it was really about getting to know the city and the different departments and what the needs were from consulting and other things. We only submitted 2 applications for the CFA that year, but that was really when we began the process of interviewing department heads, understanding where and if our services were needed. I also kind of used this opportunity to point out that our contract is a not to exceed number, and so we really work at the direction of the city. If you don't need us, we don't spend money. It's not $56,000 every year. It's just as needed. So that first year was a lot of all these meetings with the department heads, and we didn't incur all of that 56 grand for sure. So, but it was the development of that grant strategy memo. We also helped the city and Matt Miller principally in helping to update as needed different logins for different grant portals. When I say portal, it's kind of where the applications are submitted. With the consolidated funding application, CFA for short, there are logins. With grants.gov from the federal government, there are logins, and then different application portals such as the Northern Borders Regional Commission have their own portal. So there's all these different sorts of accounts to keep track of and keep updated, and we help manage that as well. One thing that we also do, and just on that last slide, sorry about that, you're okay, is we're not 100% successful. If you find a grant agency or a grant writing agency that is, let me know who they are, because they're doing the impossible. So, but that doesn't mean we stop there and hold our hands up. Sorry, we couldn't get it done. We follow up with funding agencies for debriefs on those applications to understand where we could improve the application, if it's worth resubmitting, and that helps us prepare more successful applications next time around. So, and that information helps us update our grant strategy memo as well. And that was first produced in early spring of 2022. Priorities were, and also reduced 20 priority projects that we've been working on over the last couple of years. And then, in 2022, we programmed it to pursue funding from federal programs, CFA, as well as other funding options. So, and again, we aren't automatically working on these things. It's always run it by the mayor and community development office and individual departments to see where our services are needed. So if we could go ahead. So I mentioned that first year we were unsuccessful with a couple of grants for City Beach, but we followed up with those debriefs and learned how we could improve the application. And actually one was awarded in 2022 for the dune restoration, which I know is going through kind of the contract phase right now. So that was for $817,000 for a $1.5 million project. We also were successful in getting funding for Safe Routes to School, which is a sidewalk program near Oak Street Elementary. So we were unsuccessful with a couple other applications you see here, but again, we worked on that for resubmission last year. I'll get to that in a minute. But in 2022, we also worked on several other programs, notably Restore New York for the Creed Center demolition, EPA food stamps and composting grant in conjunction with the County Department of Health, as well as Lake Champlain Basin program for Zero Safeguard. We worked with the Climate Task Force for the city in that regard. And again, continuing to maintain login credentials and debriefs of unsuccessful applications. And that, if you go to the next slide, and that paved the way to a really successful year last year, getting 6 out of 8 CFA applications, including several that were resubmissions that we learned how they could be improved. And these applications are highlighted by the Brigger-Hoffman Court Complete Streets project that's beginning to get underway. City Hall renovations, well water improvements for the water system, Sailors Beach feasibility study master plan, and kind of some smaller grants, but things that we kind of look at as seed money for bigger things. With the downtown building renovations analysis, really, through the New York Main Street program, that'll pave the way for implementation dollars down the road. And also an entry flow monitoring study through DEC that would also pave the way for infrastructure improvements down the road. We also worked on a number of other grant applications, again, at the direction of the city. So that's kind of where we've been over the last couple of years. If you go to the next slide. Where I see us going now is the city has been even more successful getting funding, right? So what that results in is increased administrative demands. Through the last couple of years, we've primarily been working on the grant writing side of things, but in talking with city staff, it sounds like our need may be on the administration side of things, and we're starting to work in that regard already. So that's where we're focusing right now, and if the contracts renew, where we would see an increased role there. I'm not saying we won't be doing grant writing, but I think there'll be more on the grant admin side going forward. But we'll continue to look for funding for implementing the Parks Master Plan, the Parks Renewal Project, as well as Harborside and City Beach going forward. And we've already had discussions about where we might want to go this year. Typically, in the springtime is when we kind of map out where our resources will be needed and where they won't. So we haven't had those discussions quite yet, but that's where we're headed shortly. And I think typically I've either Matt or myself have presented to the council the CFA applications before they get into operation. And in the spring, in the summertime, and I would expect that to continue as well. So that's pretty much what I had for your presentation. I can get into any one of these applications or our processes, but I wanted to open it up to any questions you might have on the process.
Yeah, what's the Winterhoff Court project? What does that entail?
So that's bike lanes and sidewalk improvements and street realignment, like moving the center line of the road to different sides. It's based off of the CDM or CNS report that was part of the Margaret Street project. This is just the funding of it.
Yeah, it's not gonna all end up in studies. I think we already.
No, this is construction money that was just funded. So I think that was the thing. There wasn't enough money in the DRI to fund Margaret Street and Brinkerhoff Court.
Separated out, sorry, you're fine. That project was not part of DRI, but it's the Brinkerhoff Court, it was an add-on to the Margaret Street project, that did not get funded through the Margaret Street project, but was still part of the design of that project as a whole. And it includes the reduction of court and Brinkerhoff to one lane, parking lane, still with retaining parking, reducing the road traffic to one lane with dedicated bike lane. The dedicated multi-use is more like a multi-use path to connect SUNY and downtown.
Yeah, in that situation, we used the CNS draft plans that they had prepared, and they're not draft, like preliminary design plans. But for a lot of these other applications, that's what our firm has been able to do, is develop those preliminary designs and cost estimates that help fortify the applications.
And as Bob noted, this is construction funding. This is not study or design funding.
And so basically Margaret Street without the underground stuff.
Correct. And that, right now, that's kind of, I think Mike will touch on this, so maybe you will, maybe you won't, not, then we'll touch on it another time. The question right now is the funding came through DEC, they're transitioning their grant portal to a new platform. We don't have the grant contract yet, but it's pending grant contract. And then there's another grant that's also, we're waiting on the approval of, waiting on whether or not we'll get the approval for, which will also contribute to subsurface infrastructure.
Yeah, just to see it. I'm not sure that I'm fully on board with one lane there. You have a UPS truck come up there or some wreck, that totally block the street. But anyway, that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah.
That's not.
I wouldn't be the one to answer design questions, unfortunately, sorry.
Further questions for Bob?
And so what are we working on for the beach? I noticed you said we were working on stuff.
Yeah,
Hadn't come up with any concrete stuff yet, but what are we looking at there?
so there is funding already for dune restoration and green infrastructure improvements, basically stormwater management in the parking area. And that process is working through the contract phase right now. We've been attempting to get funding for basically the boardwalk improvements and a pier, and accessibility improvements for wheelchair access to different parts of the city beach. But it's been unsuccessful a couple of times. So we're trying to figure out, all right, what do we need to do to make this a successful application? It scored pretty well, but evidently not well enough to get funding. And we're working off the Saratoga Associates master plan for that. Not sure where we're headed with that. I know we might decide to kind of move in a different direction, but not determined yet.
Anybody else have any
Mike
questions?
will have some updates on beach improvements, which probably would take a bit more precedent over maybe not the boardwalk improvements or the ADA improvements, but certainly like a pier or something like that. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll go into departmental reports, considering we have a little bit of time to focus on that. So I did ask Mike to come to talk about just an overview of what's going on in DPW, some of the capital activities that Department of Public Works is doing, and then some updates on the projects that are happening throughout the city.
Well, obviously, we've had, well, until today, some pretty decent weather to get going. First list on the list is Margaret Street. I'll just run through it. If I miss something, Andrew, on Margaret Street, we're back up, working on traffic signals, the concrete crosswalks, and then next week, we will be doing pavement markings as weather allows. So we'll wrap this thing up, and we're going live. Is there anything else?
So I noticed that a lot of the paint that was put down previously for crosswalks and such is basically more.
That was temporary.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
I was like, that's the worst paint job.
yeah, to get it on the surface for the wintertime,
Okay.
we use, not epoxy, which is actually what the spec calls for. And when you put that paint down on fresh asphalt, the asphalt just soaks it all in. So you don't really notice it after the winter. So, we'll be starting on Tuesday, we'll be doing, basically redoing all of that as, epoxy permanent.
And that was planned.
Yes.
So that people are aware, that was planned. And it was planned because we needed the road markings on Margaret Street, to get us through to this year. And I believe the epoxy contractor wasn't available at the end of last year, which is why I couldn't get that.
Well, there's only two in the service our region, and one does just airports. So we're really limited to this one contractor. Any other specifics to my issue that we're going on besides that, Andrew? No, that's okay. Moving on, item 2 is the slip lining of the river and sewer, which we actually completed today. So that's phase 1, which is from Waterhouse Park through, Underwood Trailer Park through Waterhouse Park, all the way down to Allen Street. So it's cleaned, and sections that were clay tile sewer were slip lined. And we actually continued on cleaning across Allen Street, headed towards Station 2, on the other side of the South Cap. We'll be bringing to you the next meeting an amendment for the spending resolution for that to add in cost to finish the slip lining. We do have a sizable balance in the sewer fund to cover this. And your Chamber of Marks can express it to you, but I didn't want to bring it to you until I knew where we stood with the first phase of this. But again, very successful with it. Went extremely smoothly. In a matter of 3 days, we did close to 1,200 feet. Next, Cornelia Street design, Cornelia Street, which is from basically Starbucks down to Prospect, still in design phase. Any updates on that, Andrew?
I believe they've submitted the draft design report to DOT for working through DOT with this one.
Moving on, City Hall roof, that's the big one. They made great progress. Starting next week, we'll start seeing copper go on the dome. The dome has been completely stripped and strapped and plywooded and waterproof. That actually is the most labor-intensive portion of this. They'll do a mock-up of the copper, will be reviewed, and once we're beyond the mock-up, we'll start with putting it on. I will say that we're ahead of schedule, Mayor. I'm not going to really give the council a firm yet, but
September is when it will be.
it will
Guaranteed.
they're guaranteed to be better. But
It'll be it.
But it very shortly will be very noticeable. It will look a lot different. It'll stick out like a sore thumb.
I saw some copper panels on there.
It's a couple pieces. They're working on shaping. It is all craftsmanship. It's really each individual panel is sized. I mean, it's not like you're just putting squares up there. It's like a scale. But they have to, the sheet metal workers have to craft each piece on it. So it's pretty impressive. But going well. And that's the next step. And obviously the city hall rehab, which is item number 5, which is the stairs, in final design. And we're working through getting the bid docs ready. We're waiting to grant the contract, I guess it is, and the wording. So we put those in specs, put that out to bid, which would be our front of our building. Then we can, hopefully down the road, work on interior improvements once the building is watertight. It's a little lot easier. Road resurfacing, we're ready to go. I want to be the first ones out of the gate. We are the closest to the asphalt plants that are closed currently. But the goal is to do North Gaston Street first, which is, that is not really going to be affected too much by school traffic. We'll do a nice job. We're going to hold off on some of the other projects until after school's out. We'll mobilize crews to get in there and do. Right now on the agenda is Ruger Street, South Ruger Street, and South Acres Drive. We will probably add in a couple other ones depending on the yields of projects. Then these are the 3 items coming up here, actually 2 items that we need to make decisions on. We did not bring any resolutions to you guys, but we have the Farmers Market roof and South Acres Farm. Both were carryovers from the Community Development Department. We need to make decisions. I know we included in previous 2 meetings estimates to work on these roofs. And I don't know if we really want to take these on, because they are pretty expensive, particularly the Farmers Market. We're looking at that, depending on what options we take, a repair in excess of $100,000, complete replacement, you'll hit $250,000. It's a pre-engineered metal building. My best guess is probably 40 to 50 years old. See its life expectancy. The tricky part about that particular type of building is that roof is what they call a structural panel, as opposed to just a regular piece of sheet metal they put on purlin. So that is the reason why the cost is very expensive on that type of roof. The building probably should have been demolished at the time of getting rid of the MLB facility, but they saved it. So I don't know if there's any questions about moving forward with that.
What's the, would you be replacing it with metal?
It would be replaced with that one.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Because that's a preferred method for, a pre-engineered metal building uses no roof. Also longevity.
It's just really expensive.
Asphalt will be expensive too.
Not as expensive. Is there an option to?
There is really not a cheap option. It's throwing money at a bad project. But I hate to say it, I wish I could be nicer about it. We have 2 little buildings in the city. The other one is identical. It must be a sister building they built way before I went around, south over at Fox Hill. The green building over there. It's tucked in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same manufacturer building and the roof is the same way. That one actually, I don't know, we have any leaks in there? Yeah. But it's, the one over there at the farmer's market, there's enough leaks that it's proven troublesome to the farmer's market people. So, is there anything you'd like to add to that, Courtney, or I know that you're in touch with the farmer's market.
They obviously have an interest in finding a way to keep the things that they store in that facility dry and, bring that up as a concern often. And I think what we're looking to do is to really be able to provide some type of final path forward for whether we're gonna do something or we're not gonna do something, so that they can also then make decisions accordingly of like, do we need to reorganize how we store things? Do we need to rethink how things are working, or should we expect this roof to be repaired? So.
Or the building just replaced altogether.
It kind of really depends on the future of that building.
Well, it depends on the future of the Harborside Master Plan, right? Because the Harborside Master Plan
Right.
does call for significant improvements to that area as a whole, with consideration of having some type of building or some type of structure down there that can support events, whether it be the farmer's market or something else. And, it's good money after bad kind of thing. So,
Is there any kind of like patching that can be done to get
Well,
through
they've
this?
tried to patch, and that's even more troublesome.
It just
I
makes
mean,
it further.
I was not involved in any of this, but patching has been, we put a bunch of money at that. That was really painted it, gone through, fixed it up, and painted it. It wasn't really repaired. Again, it was not a project that I had initially. My recommendation has always been to take the building down, but not, not my place. I can tell you this, the old farmer's market, if you go in there now, I'm sure they'll have there, that's screwed down metal, I'm sure that's leaking gases in there. So, well, I don't know the extent of the leaking in the building, the farmer's market is once a week. Rain, last summer was a wet summer, it was abnormally wet, it rained a lot, and I know it was troublesome to them.
So it's the type of roof where they have the screws and,
This one is, the one down by the old water pollution control plant is actually standing seam metal, but it's a structural panel. So if that one, I have no idea where it's leaking, I'm assuming there's holes through the metal itself, I haven't been up on there, but the consultant engineer looked at it. But the old farmer's market, Dirt Street, that's screwed down metal. And moving on our roofs is the South Acres Barn, which as you've been by, you notice it's from this. Same type of deal. That roof is not that old. I know that I personally had repairs done to it at least once in my career here. And it will have old shingles. It got re-roofed at some point in time prior to me. But if we were to make improvements to the South Acres facility, that is one of the things that needs to happen first.
is it the pitch?
It's a solid roof. It's that radius barn roof, and also the sheeting on it is actually plank that they're fastening to. So I'm assuming it's just not enough there fastened to the shingles. At some point in time, I don't even recall. I'm trying to get a history of it, of what was on there for a roof, and it's because it's a radius as opposed to straight edges. I'm assuming that's why it's ripping off. But,
As the wind gets underneath.
As long as I can remember some shingles.
Yeah.
You were okay, like
yeah.
cracked it in there. Always been shingles.
There are a couple different options for that you can pull that roof off and you can reshingle it, but you'd have to resheet it. Or they can actually put metal on that, which I've never seen that, but both are very expensive options. But before I brought a resolution to you guys for a good amount of money for design and for construction, I figured we should talk about it, so you have an idea, at least think about it, bring it home with you, and say, listen, we need to save this one, or we need to, take it down.
I'd be interested to see for the farmer's market what the cost would be in relation to tank. It's gonna be $200,000.
It'll be more than $200,000 for the building up. But I can get an estimated price from the
I mean, does it have to be an enclosed building?
I don't know, I'm not the farmer's market guy, I'm just the guy fixing.
I get you.
Personally, the farmer's market.
We have an expert in the room. We have an expert.
I had no problem talking about it.
Very good.
I'll even talk. So when I was manager and president, they did not want it open because there were a few older vendors that did not want to have to put tents up every week. And that is totally, I was completely for that. I thought, that it can be rough. And that wind down there is horrendous at times. I mean, absolutely horrendous. So having it enclosed, but given that, I really think that enclosing it at this point is costly. It's extremely costly. A lot of places do tents. King Valley does just tents, and their wind is unbelievable there, and they get thousands of people every weekend. So I was really pro enclosing it for so long, but I mean, sitting here on this side of the table instead of standing there begging for it, I can see how that is just, I mean, it's hard. Did you say something about the Jerky Street one, there's something?
I would, my guess is, I haven't been in Derby Street in quite some time because we don't have a major that building. But I know that we, over the time, in my, when I started here, we was functional, and we used to have roof leaks periodically there, where we'd seal them up.
Absolutely. it
And,
was.
and being it's been, you know, how many years, I guarantee you that if I go in there right now, I'm sure there's some holes on the floor where, you know, we'd be getting calls from the farmer's market to, or, and you can patch them up, there's little tricks, but at the end of the day, it's still leaking.
In my opinion, this is just my opinion, that building is 10 times better than the one down below. So that's just my opinion. The leaking wasn't that bad, the air went through, and it was just, you know, so much better for them. But just my opinion, it's just my opinion.
Well, I think one of the big catches with that area, it's too small. I remember they tried to have events there, like bike rodeo.
Yeah, it was
And
bad.
people were walking in and out of cars. It was too tiny an area for.
But I don't know how many events
Oh,
those
I
people
don't know.
do now.
Not trying to rain on the parade, but more space was better.
It was, once again, I don't know how many events they have, that would be something you would have to discuss with them, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, honestly, if you just maybe enclose one side where the wind comes mostly from off where the lake and the river is, so maybe just enclosing that one side where I call it the rough plant. But, you know, by the rough side, keep the other three open. Once again, just my opinion. These are all just me talking.
You know, like I said, I'm just bringing to you guys, if we need to make a decision, or, you know, someone, I guess, for the farmer's market's sake, I know that Courtney's the one that's going to interact with them, they ask questions about it, and whether the city wants to invest money into it. So, if that's the case, we have to, you know, get our engineer and create a project, and that's fine.
Councilor Tom?
I'm trying to remember exactly where the worst leaks were. I remember it was on the plant section and, I think over by,
Everywhere, everywhere,
Rita's, and then,
everywhere,
was there like leaks towards like the beginning part of the building too?
everywhere, yes, because that's where I was.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Matt Miller at the time had me go around with a big piece of chalk and make circles, and it looked like a game of gigantic tic-tac-toe or something, or connect the dots. It was absolutely, there were a lot of leaks, I will give them that. There were a lot of leaks. So, you know, and then you've got the air circulation, there's everything. That building is probably not.
Can we convince them to do it with tents?
Don't look at me, I have nothing to do with it anymore, so I have
I know you've been saving a kitty litter on Doug's,
No,
for like, you know,
I
helping them out with the tents, because they're always looking for those donations, so
Yeah.
I help out as much as I can.
Nothing to do with it, so I don't know.
What else you got, Mike?
And the last one on here is, city beach bathrooms. The health department, I guess came to community development last year and concerns about our restroom facilities out there. The bathhouse itself is functional, there's ample fixtures there, but they want fixtures over at the swim area, beach. So we reached out, we got a consulting engineer to give us a design proposal, we got a purchase order that we put into the design, they're gonna work with the health department, to come up with, and this is really what I have trouble with, is the health department can't really tell us, give us a hard number of fixtures they're looking for out there for this bathroom. There's no, you know, I need so many toilets and so many urinals, so they need to work together and figure this out. You know, to come up with a design, and the goal is to get a design done, get this thing bid, and then hopefully, you know, create a project for next year so we can have it ready in time, and that's the health department's good with that. So that's where we're at with that one. Any other questions as far as, the structure itself is sound, and there's ample water and sewer utilities available. available there. That's good news. But again, construction right now is expensive. Probably $500 to $600 a square foot. That's what the engineers are telling me. So it won't be a cheap project.
There isn't enough room in there for adding bathrooms?
There is ample room, yes, there's plenty of room in the existing structure, but just to retrofit, you're still looking at $500 to $600 per foot. There'll be some infill fills, masonry walls, there'll be some floor chopping, but there's sewer right outside, there's water to the building. We could do a men's room, a ladies' room, a family bathroom very comfortably there. And I think it would be a great addition, to it. I know the beach, particularly the vendor end of it would like it. It does make it easier. That being said, we did do a complete overhaul of the other bathhouse areas. People don't have to use portlets if they walk a little bit. There's very good bathrooms. Like I said, complete overhaul, all the fixtures, all the repainted it, and cleaned it. It's famous well during the season.
What's that big building to the west
Yes.
of where they have the ropes and all that?
Yeah, right where you head into the Heritage Trail boardwalk starts.
We've been in there, let's check that
Yeah.
out.
So that's what we currently have going on for capital activity. Is there any questions on anything other than just capital projects or anything ongoing?
Anyway, we got our organizational charts and I haven't had a chance to review a whole lot, but of course I always go right to the infrastructure and things. And I was looking at, we only have 5 MEOs, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. But it's a little bit, and it's funny you bring this up because I was actually in my office going through what had happened to public works and water and sewer. So quite a few years ago, someone had the idea to combine both departments, public works and water and sewer. If you go to anywhere else, they're 2 separate departments. They created a hybrid position, which is a public works maintenance too, which has a CDL. So basically, we're jack of all trades kind of employees. Water, sewer, road work, that's what we do. So that's why you only see 5 MEOs. And typically our MEOs, we have MEO 1s or MEO 3 and MEO 4. And those are, MEOs are your straight truck drivers, like your garbage truck drivers. Just typically 2 of those, and there's an MEO 3 and MEO 4.
Yeah, 'cause it made me think about, when we had the snowstorm, we haven't had any in a while, so kind of tend to forget about that.
So today we were running, the garbage service was run by the MEOs, and we had maintenance 2s out running plow trucks, and then, wheel loaders would be the
Okay, and that classification can drive.
But everyone can drive everything all the way down to the maintenance 1, believe it or not. So if we have to call people in, we can put maintenance 1s in trucks, and they're supposed to have a CDL, so we're working, we have several that are in the process of training. Fully staffed, I think we should have about 25 drivers.
Okay, so there's no charge. I know you had
Well,
mentioned before about
it's tight.
the trouble we're having now getting people.
This event was great. We were able to shut it down around noontime. And I don't anticipate any more accumulations. The roads are warming up, but if we have an extended event, the last one in particular, believe it or not, we were running, I think, for 20 hours in. Have the plows out. We get to about 32 hours of stuff.
Must have made out a little bit better with the salt this year too. Huh?
Very good. Very good. And also wear and tear on the equipment. I would just see it in there just sitting. Councilman Head?
I'm good.
Okay. Mayor, anything else?
I assume the update on Market Street already flew by and missed it.
Yeah,
I can give you a brief synopsis of what's going on if you want.
yeah, just one.
Sorry.
No, you're good, it's all good.
So, about 2 weeks ago, we got started back on Margaret Street again. Main things that we're doing is the signalization and the pedestrian push button crosswalks, basically at all the intersections. The other thing that's probably gonna be the little bit more of the cumbersome part is all of the crosswalks are getting saw cutted, they're saw cutting and removing the asphalt, and that's gonna be the stamped dyed concrete going into the crosswalks. Yep, so they're working on that right now, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna, on the main stretch, we're gonna do one half of the road. We're gonna put a steel plate over the top of it so the cars can still drive over it. Because you have to let the concrete cure for 7 days, before you can put tractor trailers and mainline traffic on it. So they'll do one half of the road 1 week, and then when that's done, we'll do the next half of the road. We have on Tuesday, line stripers are coming up to restripe with epoxy paint. And then they're just gonna continue with the signalization for the push buttons. That'll be probably 3 or 4 weeks. We have a little bit of paving to do. We've got to cut a little bit of parking lot out at the county building because there was a little bit too much of a slope. So we actually have to go back, lower that slope a little bit because when their tractor trailers back up to the docks, they're bottoming out. So we got to fix that for them. And then we're also paving the laydown yard that Reifenberg used at the end of the police station. It was a gravel, muddy kind of mess. So they're gonna come in, put new gravel in, and then pave over the top of that to give them a little bit more room for parking, good for tow cars and the vehicles for the employees down there. So they'll do that, they'll get the rest of the spoils pulled out of the harbor side area, and then it should be wrapped up with the project in the next couple months.
Thank you.
Yep.
Standard reports from the clerk's office. I know community development's here, planning's here to talk about their reports if there are questions.
And the big thing will be zoning, we'll meet on that next week.
On the 11th, we are meeting, we are having a special committee or special council meeting called on April 11th at 4:30, 5:30?
4:30.
4:30?
4:30. It's 4:30.
April 11th, 4:30, 4:30 to 5:30 to discuss the update, progress update for zoning code change. Alicia and Matt, is Matt gonna be here?
Matt Rogers?
Yeah. Talk about that. We do have 2 items on tonight's agenda. We need the next 15 minutes to talk about the Netherlands. This was a discussion, obviously the beach fees, I did shop that around to council. I've seen that there was some consensus on the beach fee structure. Not much change from last year, other than the half off, the discounted rate. And then the thing about, and then the phase 3 engineer design approval.
Yeah, just had one question on that. Is that
Which
gonna
one? The
be a
second one?
beach,
Yes.
rollout on that?
Yes.
I know that the city residents are not gonna be paying for the parking.
Correct.
Is there something they had to do like last year where they registered or?
Yeah, same
That's gonna be the same thing?
process. They'll call in, they'll get approved or authorized, and you can still have to apply for the permit and then provide whatever the office says they need to provide for that fee to be waived or for their permit to be issued.
Yeah, it's all done online. There are no permit stickers anymore. You register your plate, and then when parking enforcement is going around the lot, looking at plates, it comes up as whether there's their permit or not. So it all just happens for us. Yeah.
Coach Snell?
Okay, so I'm seeing that the daily parking fee is $13 for those. It was $12 last year, correct? And now because there's gonna be some changes, some people are gonna have to get permits and everything. I don't know if we could just make it $10 just to encourage more people to come I mean, I think if we dropped it down just a little bit, I think that would bring more people in.
I thought the beach was doing good.
The beach is doing well, and I wouldn't be inclined to reduce the cost, to reduce the price of a service that we know it's pretty well received, and we did have a positive reception last year, positive attendance last year. And again, like always, and again, this is a reminder to everybody that, this is a parking fee. You can park outside of the main area, not all of the parking, it's not applicable to all of the parking at the beach property. You can park on the northern parking lot. You can park, and walk in or bike in. This is really more of the convenience of parking right next to the beach.
Okay, I'm just thinking just because things are changing the agreement, so, just what if, they didn't wanna, get a beach pass to, come to it a lot, just like a couple of times, just thought maybe, if we just drop it down a little bit.
I mean, the permit's not changing. The biggest change is how we're charging non-city residents.
Well, I had to at
Everything
least
else
try,
remains the
so they can go on the record that I at least tried to get it down to $10. There. Okay.
Well, I think you could bring a car full too, it's for the parking, so if you brought your 3 friends or whatever with you, it's still the same price. It's not like it's 13 per person, I think a lot of people go with other people to the beach, I guess. I don't just want to solo beach goers. I'm just trying to make it seem better.
You remember when we were when this first came to be and everything, some of us were arguing for $5 and that didn't pass.
When it first came to be, our beach permits were $200 and people were buying them.
That's true.
When I first came on, our beach permit was $200.
Our beach,
Yes,
was that the downtown parking pass?
no, that was for the beach fee, that was for the beach season pass, for the beach. And people were buying them.
Okay,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
had to.
Heads up, historical, by the way, yeah, that happened. We said, okay, we'll charge 60 now. So,
I have a question here, I see John is here, so I'm not.
Janelle is here to answer that
Oh,
question
okay.
about, you were here, right, to answer that question about the city incident study? I thought you were, that's what he said.
We are now.
Water improvements.
Tom threw you under the bus.
I'll try.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll try to keep it brief, but I was just wondering, because this is such a big fee for design work, I know we've been talking about these projects, and I sometimes get them mixed up and confused. But what does this particular project entail? What items are
Separate from
going
the
to be,
previous phases that we've been talking
right,
about.
is this like the wells, is this?
No, so this particular one is just for putting in a transmission line from the wells to the water filtration. So
All the way?
it's for redundancy. Basically, it's kind of outlined on the first page, but we don't have any redundancy with that water main. And so they're proposing to put an additional main in on the opposite side of the corridor in which it comes through.
Okay, that would be a big project.
Yes, so you can, I see in the scope of work that transmission main requires surveying, it requires geotechnical investigation, it requires coordinating with the archaeological portion to make sure that we're in the clear for that. There's many different aspects to just designing where that water main transmission line is going to come through.
So, well, I guess I shouldn't ask this question, but I will anyway. So are there going to be any problems with getting the okay to do this? Do we have right of way or
From what I
something? Because
understand,
I know that area has changed a lot. There's houses and little farms and things there now that I'm sure weren't there back in the thirties or when they did.
Yeah, so from what I understand from the proposal that, part of that is ensuring that where the right of ways are, and mapping them out specifically within the surveying portion of the project, and I don't believe that it's, assumed that there are going to be any hangups with that.
Okay, I didn't mean to ask so many questions about that. Okay, so that's why this is such a big project. All right. Thank you.
Anything else? If there's no other questions or, questions about the agenda or questions about the reports, we'll adjourn for the next 6 minutes. Okay, motion to adjourn. Counselor Vaughn, second. Counselor Avery, all in favor?